Hello everyone, welcome back to Robotics for All Week 3 HTML CSS class. In today's video, we're going to be talking about CSS. But before we get on, make sure to pause the video and go ahead and format your page exactly as I have it. Once you've done that, we can move on. So what is CSS? CSS is a language that stands for Cascading Style Sheets and is a way to visually change the look of our website. Specifically with coding, it allows us to change the properties of an HTML tag. So you can look at it like this. With a building. In a building, the walls and pillars are the HTML, and how the building looks, its color, shape, and position is the CSS. So how can we change the properties of our HTML elements? The very first thing is to give ourselves a place to write the CSS. In HTML, there's a tag called a style tag. This is where we're going to write all of our CSS code. Next, determine which tag you want to style. In this case, let's start off by styling the body. If you ever want to style a different tag, all you have to do is write the name of the tag and a pair of braces. And make sure that you have an opening and close brace. This is a mandatory part of CSS. To start off, why don't we try changing the background color of our web page? In this case, we will be styling the body and using the background color property to do that. So go ahead and write background color and then a color of your choice. And as you can see, the web page has turned to the color yellow. And if I want to do a different color, all I have to do is change the color after the colon. One important thing to note is that you need to have a semicolon if you have two or more elements. For example, if I were to stack these right now and get rid of one of the semicolons, the property wouldn't work because we need to have the semicolons. This tells CSS that these are two separate lines and two separate properties. The other properties that we're going to learn about have to do with the font. So in this case, I'm going to switch to a paragraph tag so we can work with font. The very first thing that we can do with font is change the font itself. Let's just say we wanted to have the font be impact. So if I wanted to have the font be impact, I'd have to write font family, colon, and then the name of the font. And as you can see, the font has changed to a different one. If I go ahead and type Arial here, the same thing happens. The next font property is font color. In order to change the font color, all we have to do is write the word color, colon, and then some color. For example, red or yellow. Next is font style. Font style gives us a way to change the style of the font. In other words, make it a regular font or italicized font. So if I wanted to make it italic, all I'd have to do is write the word font style, colon, italic, and as you can see, the paragraph right here has changed to italic. By default, the font style property is set to normal, which, as you can guess, means normal style. Moving on, there's also font weight. Font weight is a way to add thickness to our text. Or in other words, bolder text. So if I wanted to make our text bold, all I have to do is write the word bold, and as you can see, the text has become bold. In addition to bold, there is bolder, which just makes it thicker, lighter, which makes the text lighter than normal, which is, as you can guess, just a normal text, the default text. And then finally, we can also give the font weight numeric values. between 100 and 900. 400 is normal, and 700 is also known as bold. The last property is known as font size. Font size allows us to increase the size of our font. In order to do that, we have to write font size, then a number, as well as pixels. Pixels is just a unit of measurement for all things computers. If we ever want to write the dimensions of something, or give something a size, we should use pixels. As you can see, after writing 10 pixels, it became, the font size became 10 pixels. If I wanted to change it to something really big, you can see that once again, it has adjusted to the font size 1000 pixels. The next thing we're going to learn about is giving HTML elements a width and a height. To start off, I'm going to delete these properties, and I'm going to give my header a background color, and in this case I will make it red. And as you can see, automatically once I've given the background color, the header is now red. Moving on, with HTML elements we can give them a width and a height. So once again, if we want to make the header only 100 pixels wide, then we can use width and then give it a pixel value. And as you can see, the width of the header has adjusted. So in order to make sure that it's enough to span the text, we can increase it. Additionally, there is height, and it works the same way. Once again, you can give any pixel value you want. I will set this back to 300. The last property we're going to learn about today is the absolute positioning property. What is absolute positioning? Absolute positioning gives us the way to specify where exactly we should place our HTML element on the web page. In order to tell the web browser that you want to use absolute positioning, you need to write the following: position, absolute, and make sure that you end it with a semicolon. There are 4 properties we can use with absolute positioning. That is left, right, bottom, and top. To start off, let's work with left. What will happen if I use left and 100 pixels? You can see here that once I did that, it moved to the left 100 pixels. For right now, ignore the text. So once again, once I said left 100 pixels, it moved to the right by 10 pixels, by 100 pixels. Now what if I did 300? As you can guess, it should now move 300 pixels across the screen. What if I wanted to do right? Now it moves 300 pixels from the right. There is top, and finally bottom. So you can see here that how exactly does this work? First of all, we have to specify the edge we want. So in this case, left, top, right, or bottom. And then we have to specify a number. This tells us how far from that edge do we want the element to be. So for example, if I were to say top and 300 pixels, then we know that the element should be 300 pixels from the top. In addition, you can stack these items. So top and left. Now you can see that it moved left 200 pixels and top 300 pixels. It's helpful to envision absolute positioning like a coordinate. For example, we want to move in the X direction 200 pixels and in the Y direction 300 pixels. Now one thing to notice is what happens if I use left and right. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to use both of these because they have to work because they work in the same axis, for example, in the x-axis. So that's why if you're going to choose left or right or top or bottom, then you should stick with one. Normally, we do top and left as the values that we should pick. One other thing to talk about is about CSS in general. There are hundreds of CSS properties, but fortunately, there are sources like W3 Schools and other websites that will list out a multitude of the CSS properties available to you. While we can't teach you every single one of them, it is in your best interest to review these properties and therefore expand your knowledge about what you can do with CSS. That is all, and thank you for listening.